I've got a very special IoT Show episode today for you, which will not be about technology directly, but will be about the job market. If you are on the hunt for your next candidate and or for your next dream job, you have to listen to this episode. Jay Jones has been looking for a job and then, annoyed by all the noise out there, all the fake jobs ads, all the fake candidates, decided to compile a certain amount of information about all these scams and became an expert. So Jay is coming to the show to share with us what are the common scams to be careful about, to be wary about. What are the common sense practices that will prevent you from getting your ID stolen or from hiring the wrong candidate? If you like the episode, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, hit the like button, leave a comment. Thanks for following and be safe out there. Hey everyone, this is the IoT Show. I'm Olivier, your host. Today we will not talk technology per se, but something that is super important for everyone. Which relates to the job market. And for that, we have Jay with us. Jay, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet everybody. E-meet.
Awesome. So, yeah, awesome, Jay. So tell everyone, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a job seeker, but I've become known as the profiler because I've taken down 32,640 fake jobs off LinkedIn and also over 7,000 fake profiles off LinkedIn. And how it started was me putting up the open to work banner and noticing a problem. And then the more questions I asked, the more I realized the scale of the problem. So I decided to take action to help make the job market better for everyone.
Personal interest, basically, right? You're trying to help and you're trying to help other candidates, figure out how to find a job. It's something that is really interesting these days because, we, especially to the people on the IoT Show, viewing, watching, listening to the IoT Show, they're usually highly skilled. And there are so many, companies these days who are whether laying off and or there is a usual turnover. People want to find a new project, new mission, whatnot. And there is a plethora of job offerings and a plethora of candidates, but many of them are fake, right?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality. Yeah.
Yeah. How big is that problem? Tell me.
It's innumerable. Like I just said, I got 32,640 fake jobs taken down, but there are many, many more. I surmise they're in the millions. And with the ease of adding jobs and there's no verification, there's no checks and balances in place, like anyone at any time can add a job, whether it's real or not. And then, unfortunately, there are real companies that engage in adding ghost jobs to make their company look more in demand, to help appease investors, and to help get a little bit more out of the people that are currently working so that, they're nervous and they see jobs posted, so they work harder so they can get more for less, so to speak.
And that's a lot of noise. I've seen that myself, actually. I've been contacted, and we'll talk about different types of scams, but by different types of recruiters, allegedly. And it's really hard to make the difference between the ones that are real and the ones that are not, because, they are very interesting. And before we get into these details of what kind of cons are out there, tell us a little bit about, does it affect only higher skilled professions, everyone? Is there a trend in there?
It affects everyone. Eventually, they target everyone. Scammers do. They primarily target job seekers, but it's a feather in their cap if they get the more senior people like the IoT professionals, the engineers, and things like that, because of the wealth of information that these positions and people have. Because with these engineer titles, you have access to a lot of security information, a lot of employee information in some instances. So if they can compromise you or get information on the inner workings of what your day-to-day looks like at the company that you're with, then they can do a lot of damage from the inside out.
Yeah, so it's not like your money or your bank account that might be interested per se, like fetching all your information and so on. It's more often, a will to get into these companies, the bigger ones, and get that information from them. So it actually accrues to industrial or country spying, right?
It's multifaceted. Ultimately, the goal is to get as much information and money as possible. But there are some scammers that are a lot more patient, and they'll do what is called bait and wait. So they'll get jobs within companies, work there for years, have people that are part of the con and the scam join the company as well. and infiltrate, get as much data as they can. And then that's where you get the information or the ultimate leading to ransomware and holding a company hostage in order to get their company back in their control. They'll ransom them and things like that. But there are varying levels to the cons. Some are quick and then more long and more patient.
What are the most common cons you've seen out there? Let's warn the viewers. They might have been exposed to some of them and didn't realize what was happening. So what are the most common ones?
SIM swapping is the first one that comes to mind. And what happens is that can happen just by clicking a link that's malware latent. And pretty much how SIM swapping works is you click this link, your phone is compromised, then scammers can take your phone, install WhatsApp on their device, put your phone number that's tied to a completely different carrier, but then contact your carrier, swap the SIM, and then take over and operate as you so they can scam everyone that's in your contact list.
It's pretty bad. Actually, the WhatsApp problem is something that I've noticed a couple of times where engaging with a recruiter, which they are pretty on point because they looked at your profile, so they're asking the right question, and you're just like, okay, that's on point. And then suddenly you say, hey, can we communicate over WhatsApp? And that was for me the first red flag here. What's going on, right?
Yeah, because they use bots to scrape LinkedIn profiles. And so what happens is they'll use the bots and then they'll generate a templated message to you and they'll tailor it to what's in your profile, because this is the problem with the job market and just the internet in general. People share a lot of things, and it's the cost of doing business when it comes to trying to find work and being a professional networker online. You have to share information, but in that, what happens is it makes these scammers more able to tailor messaging that is specific to you. So if you have no idea how these messages work, what you'll do is you'll engage. You'll think that they took the time to research you and you think that this is a real opportunity. But really all they did is use AI to generate a templated message specific to you. So then you're likely to listen to them and, it goes from there.
Yeah. So fake headhunters. Another way to find them is when they're using personal emails.
Yeah. Because headhunters, they're really they are affiliated with a corporate email address. So if you see a Gmail address, you see an MSN domain address, you see a Hotmail, you see a Outlook address, it's a scam 100% of the time, I would say. And how that works is they'll send you, like I said, the templated responses that are detailed. You think that this is going somewhere. And you forget to question certain things because, from the mindset of a job seeker, if you've been in the job seeking market for a long time, you're more likely to listen to things because you're more desperate, you're more looking for hope, and you're thinking that this opportunity is real. But what happens is you'll overlook the common red flags, and then that's how you ultimately get scammed.
Yeah. So beware. The same way when you receive weird emails, don't click on the links because they're not good for your laptop, for your computer, for yourself. We talked about one-way interviews as well. Tell us a little bit about this kind of con.
Yeah, actually, I made a video joking about that a couple of weeks back because what I noticed is in the job market more and more, and real companies do this too, where job interviewees go into an interview and everybody has their cameras off except the job seeker. And so what happens is you're in this position of, well, do I leave or what's going on? And you're thinking that this is a real opportunity. So you go forward and just overlook it. But what happens is you can have people recording you and you don't know it. You can have them training AI using you. And so when they go to impersonate you as an applicant at another company, they'll use your face. They can use face swapping and different AI generated things. And it's a dangerous thing because you don't know who you're talking to, who you're giving information to, but they're abusing the power that they have with this mystery job.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the interviewee perspective, but then there's also the scam you were just saying now that some ill-intended people might be stealing people's identity, face, sometimes certifications as well that they have acquired to impersonate a candidate. And so there are cons in that direction as well that companies are facing with fake candidates, right?
Yeah, because the way to infiltrate a company is to look as legitimate as possible, but that starts with information. And so specific to the IoT space and cybersecurity, what happens is typically you need certifications to get your foot in the door. And so what the scammers will do is they'll recruit unsuspecting job seekers with fake jobs and say part of the qualifications is to get this certification. And then once you get the certification, then you can move forward in the process. What happens is if it's a real certification that they're having you go after and obtain, Then from there, they'll have you verify that you got the certificate and then just completely overtake it. And then you're not able to access it. And they'll use that to apply to other jobs as you or with that certificate under somebody else's name entirely.
That's that's pretty scary. We are all IT people. We understand technology, but the scams, the cons are happening. Meaning, people are clicking on these links. People might be desperate enough to find a job that they are getting into these ones. Is there any particular impact you're seeing of AI? AI is used. You mentioned that a couple of times already. How big of the AI impact is on this big problem of fake jobs and fake candidates?
It makes the scale of their creation much easier. It makes people able to generate fake jobs, fake profiles at scale at a massive rate. And with the ability to keep up, it gets much more harder to do that. And so, the other side of it, if you're a legitimate job seeker, you're trying to get an edge. And so people will use auto apply. So they'll use AI applications that mass apply for jobs that they want. But the problem is you end up with the sea of sameness. And so these companies with these real opportunities, they get a ton of resumes that all look the same, that all sound the same. And the only thing that really changes is the name at the top and the contact information. But then from the scamming side, they get to infiltrate real companies, pretend to be those companies, and basically invade job postings and job seekers' personal information.
We have an audience that's very interested in IoT technology and devices and so on. Any specifics that you've observed in your research related to IoT in terms of vulnerability on infrastructures, networks, devices, whatnot?
So basically anything that is connected to the internet, it has to be vigilantly monitored, it has to be regularly updated, because one vulnerability in one thing, no matter how small, could lead to a major consequence.
Yeah, and sometimes very often tied to the identity of someone, right? Because someone is logging in onto that machine or is using it, is interacting with it. These IoT devices are exposed because they are physically there, present in a room or outside sometimes. Do you see anything specific as well? IoT is a domain that is very technical and specific in terms of the developers, the builders of this kind of devices, software, firmware, and so on. So the skill set is pretty high and rare. The profiles of IoT practitioners is not something super common out there. Does it make it worse? Or actually, does it make the IoT practitioners safer from this kind of cons or hacking?
It's harder for them to be scammed, but if a scammer is able to infiltrate, it makes them more able to then replicate that, and it makes the scammers better. And so, the most common things that I've seen are infiltrated are like TV streaming devices, as I mentioned, digital projectors, aftermarket vehicle infotainment systems, and things like that. And a lot of these things are made in China, so there's that connection to the scale of the problem. So if you have a lot of bad actors out of China doing this kind of stuff, then it can negatively affect the U.S. job market, the U.S.'s personal information of candidates and executives and so on.
What are the best practices? We already talked about the kind of cons and how the hacks are happening, but what is it they would recommend people to be careful about and pay attention to?
Sure. For companies in specific, there are always businesses that are trying to, get your business from the current IoT service provider that you have or the current security protocol company that you work with. So basically verifying it and not going off of the convenience or the lower price or the specific looking sites, like if it looks real. But, basically doing your due diligence, because scammers can mock up websites pretty quickly. They can look like real, fully fleshed out companies when they're not. So check the domain on whois.com or who.is and see the age of the company in relation to the person that's reaching out to you. If they say they've been with this company 10 years, but the domain is only 2 years old, that's a tell that it's fake. Make sure that the emails are used and are active, but beware that they might be hijacked, because I've seen a lot of that too, where hijacked profiles on LinkedIn are hiding behind their verification and the premium badge to look real because they have this age and this quality list of connections, but it's compromised by a scammer.
Use common sense in general. Website, emails, ask for the emails to be the corporate ones when you're engaging with someone. And that's a level of insurance you can have. But as you were saying, they might have been hacked. Beware of headhunters. No,
yeah,
that's something that be careful about that. Anything else? Yeah, you were talking about using video calls as well rather than just audio.
Yeah, because audio, there's audio spoofing, there's voice swapping or AI usage. Like you see it on YouTube with the famous artists, they have AI generated songs, and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds just like the artist, and it's troubling because in the simplest and the most carefree way, you just made a song, but even then, you're stealing money from the real artist. But when you're talking about scamming, you're stealing people's voices and using those as part of fake interview processes over the phone. So I say the best way to curtail it is always looking at who you're talking to, either in person, which is the best, and then second is on camera if you can't get them in person.
Yeah, and that's on both sides, employer and so recruiters and candidates for jobs. You need to be careful on both sides. The word things are usually presented as the most convenient, something that you mentioned when we were talking about this topic, right? And you just described a lot of that. So some things that seem to be making your life easier. So let's communicate over WhatsApp, or let's just have this quick chat, and I can share more about the job. It's something that you need to pay attention to and be careful about.
So it's always the uneven exchange of information that is a tell too, because like I say, job seekers are in a position where they've been looking for quite some time. And so they're trying to be overly compliant. And if you're a company as well, if you have this candidate who is willing to jump through every hoop and do this and that, always be careful of that, because the goal is to infiltrate. The goal is to do whatever possible to get as much from you as possible. And so when it's an uneven exchange of information for the fake recruiter to a real candidate example, you have the job seeker giving their resume, giving their driver's license up front, giving their social security number up front for background checks that precede even an offer, which should never happen. Then from the company side, you have candidates that are willing to do anything and everything. They don't have any questions. They'll do every assessment. And the goal is to get within the company, get the offer, and then from there, like I said before, infiltrate it and get as much information as possible. So it's always an uneven exchange of information and a willingness to bend over backwards in times where you shouldn't.
Yeah, so everything that seems suspect is suspect, right? You should be careful and be aware of pretty much everything. So don't be totally scared of everything. If you're a candidate looking for a job out there, don't freak out because you're not finding, because there's a lot of noise. Use common sense. There are jobs. IoT practitioners, I can tell you, companies are all about IoT these days. So if you can't find a job these days, that's because of these noise. Jobs are out there. You will find them. So don't be too scared. We don't want to blame or shame whatever, but people are using big platforms like Indeed, LinkedIn, and others. And all of them are actually exposed to this kind of things, right? Like the scale is such on these platforms that there is a lot of noise, right? And so there's no specific recommendation avoiding this or going towards another one, right?
Yeah, specifically on LinkedIn, what I tell people is that you have to look at everything. You have to question everything. I say be vigilant, because there's a difference between vigilance and paranoia. Paranoia is everybody's out to get me, I don't know what to do, while vigilance is there are people that are out to get me, here's what I do. And that's what I always do. I help people with the information that they need. I show them how these scams work. I show them the bad actors, the bad companies, so that they know, like, even if they change company names, even if they change fake profiles, this is actually the structure of what they do and how they do it. So even if they change the name, the face, the title, the history, you know how they talk and how they do things. So you're better protected.
Is it fair to say that with the amount of wealth of information you gathered, you can help companies put in place the right strategy to recruit and find and recruit the right candidates, right? So like lots of headhunters companies do have these services that they offer big companies, but sometimes, having an external person like you that can help these companies better navigate this, job market thing is useful, right? So people can reach out to you, they can follow you to get more information, individuals or companies, on your LinkedIn profile. Awesome. So Jay, I hope that people will reach out, because that's something that they might not need, they might not know they need as a company. The information you're sharing on your channels is also super interesting because uncovering different scams. When we discussed initially, I was like, oh, wait a second. So that call I put off, last year, coming from Saudi Arabia, and that was looking really interesting on a big project, was all like, I detected it was fake. I didn't pay attention, but then I was like, oh, I'm so glad I just shared my online profile and nothing else, because it could have gone really bad there.
Yeah, because that's a quick sidebar into like task-based scamming, because there are real companies that do this too. But what it does is it enables scammers and the companies that do this that are basically engaging in unscrupulous behavior, but they'll give you assignments and things to do as part of the interview process, but there's never really a job behind it. So that's where the ghost job stuff comes in. And what happens is, and I've seen this countless times, like, for example, if it's a company that's doing this as being unscrupulous, they'll get a lot of things from people in the creative space. So they'll have you do copywriting assignments, marketing strategy, different things like that. And then they'll say they went with another candidate, but the work that you did for the interview process, you then see months or a year down the line, and there's no recourse for you because you didn't do something up front, like establish an NDA or say like, hey, I need to be paid for this work, and be adamant about that. Because if you just do the work in the lieu of getting this job and, like I say, being overly compliant, then you'll get scammed out of your intellectual property. And for the scamming side of it, when they have you do these tasks and write these assignments and things like that, they have no intention of getting any real opportunities to you. The goal is to get information from you and then make their scams to other people look more legitimate.
That's bad. That's bad. So hopefully we'll have the big names of big platforms clean up, their lists of ads and their candidates in a way or another, hopefully using AI in the right way to do that. But in the meantime, people, go follow Jay, read, engage, share your own stories. I think that's a super important thing to do when you went into a bad situation. Hopefully came out of it without too much damage. Share your experience so that others don't fall in the same trap. And there are jobs out there, once again, especially in IoT. So don't freak out. Go find the job that is for you, or find the next if you're already on a job. And if you're a company trying to recruit, there are good, talented people out there. It's not all scams, so don't be afraid of engaging with people you don't know. Job market these days, from my perspective, works a lot with recommendations, networking and so on, because you're recommended by someone and or you have a job that is being recommended to you by someone and that's the way things work well, and that's one way of avoiding these scams very often. But in general, there are ways with common sense to be careful. But go follow Jay. Once again, that's something that, and if you have a question, you should definitely ask you. You viewer should ask you, Jay, about, should I do that? Should I not do that? Engage in that forum that you're exposing out there on your channels. It's super interesting. Thanks a lot for your time today. And, go hunt for your next job. And for you, Jay, I hope that what we see today, what we talked about today, is going to help you as well, because that's super important. And I know a lot of companies will be interested in that. So good luck out there.
Thank you. Be safe out there. Stay vigilant.